All right. On a different venue tonight, so the background's different, and we're don't have much in the way of heat here, so it's a little cool. So we're all bundled up. It's good to see everyone. So just adjust your seat, get comfortable, at the same time trying to keep your spine aligned in a way that leads to alertness and clarity of consciousness. So close your eyes. Let's turn our attention inward. I know that some of the Buddhist traditions, they keep their eyes open, but this practice emphasizes bringing the attention fully to the inner space rather than trying to integrate that with what's going on out in the world. Let's notice what's happening with your shoulders, with your extremities. Particular attention to the configuration of the spine. Just visualizing that the vertex of the skull, which is the back part of the top of the head, is pointing upward. So your gaze, if you had your eyes open, would be pretty much across the horizon. Just notice how very slight shifts in the position of your head or your shoulders or your spine can change totally the feeling of the inner space. You can experiment a little bit with that. Like that moves a fraction of an inch, try moving it back the other direction. Just see what happens. Remember that your posture is a dynamic situation, not static. Because your body's going to continue its movements with the breath and other subtle motions. So you want to be conscious of that. And you want to allow it to continue to find its way to an increasingly upright, what's the word I want? Upright, sort of delightful position that feels really good. It will tend in that direction, whatever that involves. Coming more into relationship with gravity and more of a conduit between the descending consciousness and the energy of the earth. So we, each of us, constitute a connection between the above and the below. With all that that implies. Light streaming down and into us, and power ascending up through us from her, from Gaia. This is not a static or a what I can't even think of how to say it. This is not a static, nor is it a routine or dull or uninteresting situation. It's actually a very dynamic and potentially delightful and energizing thing that's happening here between heaven and earth through your spine. So bringing attention to it actually magnifies all that to some extent, so that it can be more vivid, more enjoyable, more exhilarating. So tuning in, opening the channel, enjoying the transmission. You can think of an incandescent bulb where the power moving through it actually lights it up. So we're sort of like that. When we bring our full attention to this arrangement and hold the attention there, it does become more vivid in our awareness. So allowing the breath to move through that channel, allowing very slight, almost invisible movements in your chest and with your breath, in your shoulders, in your head, as it responds to the movement through it and adjusts and perhaps celebrates what's going on. So in some schools, this is called dynamic stillness. You are still, but you're not rigid or inert. allowing the breath eliminates the possibility of being inert, because the breath is constantly moving and flowing and filling and emptying. And it's part of the, it's my Rama used to say, is what connects the body and spirit is the breath. Constantly connecting. So establishing this position between heaven and earth with connections above and below should give us a vantage point. Does give us a vantage point to look at ourselves, at our lives, and at what has happened in the last year. This in Tantra is called gathering the data. We did a great experiment in 2020 and into the beginning of 2021. Now it's time to gather the data. Individually, collectively, in all sorts of ways. So what did I do? How did I respond? What happened inside of me? How am I understanding that? How am I understanding myself now? What did I learn? We called off everything, went home, did a protracted retreat. Much time for introspection, much time for things to come up. This is one of the reasons some people avoid meditation. Because if you're still, if you give up for a moment your preoccupation with what's going on in the outside world, and if you're still, guess what? A lot of things emerge that have been avoided by being busy all the time. This is what happens during a retreat. We retreat from the world and we look inside. Unflinchingly, to confront all the things that have been undealt with. If we continue to hold our focus on the inner world, much will emerge, and if we don't involve ourselves with it too much emotionally, it will move on out and to some extent dissipate, lose some of its charge. This is an important principle in meditation. Of course, being human, we often respond to that emergence by saying, actually, maybe I should cut the meditation short today because I got a lot to do, and jump back up and get busy again, pushing it back out of awareness. So you probably tried that experiment. So you might want to try the experiment of No, I'm just going to sit here and hold my attention on the inner space and see what happens. So we had a year to do that. We may not have done that all the time, probably not, but we may have done it some of the time. Not always gladly or willingly, but circumstances may have been helpfully supportive in getting us to do that. So now, here we are, into the spring, positioned to look back, to collect data, to shine light on our experience. What happened to you last year? What happened inside you last year? What still dwells in your inner world as a result of all of that? Has anything shifted about your relationship to nature? Has anything shifted in your relationship to unitary consciousness? Have barriers fallen away? Or have barriers been erected? By barriers, I mean barriers to awareness, barriers to connection, barriers to joy, barriers to feeling more alive. How has your sense of death shifted? If it has, in what way? Much talk of dying. How are you feeling about your own death? Has that shifted? Letting your attention rest on the spine, the breath, what arises from different chakras as the breath transits them one by one, first, second, third, fourth, on up through your spine to your crown. If you sit for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, probably images will begin to arise, or sounds, or little things begin to emerge that were tucked away under the rug. So allow them to emerge. You don't have to judge them. You don't have to suppress them. You don't have to apologize for them. You don't have to run away from them. You can just allow them to emerge into consciousness and float on away. Yes, you have the opportunity to grab them and interact with them and think about them and talk about in your head why you did that, or why you should have done something different, or why it was someone else's fault. All those things, but you can forego that opportunity and simply see them and allow them to float on by. My guess is that for most people, things have been stirred up over the last year, loosened up from their hiding places deep in your awareness, in our awareness. Welcome them and let them go. Asking the question, what happened last year? What happened? Might bring up some interesting material, memories, thoughts, feelings, emotion. If so, that's helpful. Time for a spring cleaning. Wasn't a normal year. Perhaps in a normal year, you have arranged things to keep them tidy and out of sight and safely out of consciousness. Maybe they've been stirred up this year. Good time to bring them on out and let them go. If you need to ground yourself, you can remember the use of so and hum, inhaling so, exhaling hum. If your mind wanders, that might pique your curiosity. Huh, what is it wandering away from? Hmm. Mm, allow curiosity to carry you back. Noticing but not reacting to. Noticing but not judging yourself. Releasing. Allowing the breath to free itself from the influences of repressed feelings and memories and fears and negativity. It's called liberating yourself. What have I been hating? What have I been fearing? What have I been ruminating about? What have I been upset or indignant about? What have I been using energy to chew on? And allowing it to float away. And then enjoying the freedom that you experience when you do that. And notice what's different inside when you involve yourself in this process. Release. Release all samskara. Letting go. Free the breath. Free your energy. All the energy that was involved in holding things down, denying, explaining away, justifying, all that energy is liberated and available to revitalize your body and to intensify and clarify your consciousness. Wow, what a bargain. So now pay attention to the breath moving from the tip of the spine up to the crown of the head, to the vertex, to the back of the crown of the head. And back down. Just let your attention trace the breath. Staying, adhering closely to the flow of the breath. And notice how that feels. And now letting your attention drift toward the heart center. And to alight there, settle down there. Halfway. You might think of the heart center as being where the light from above meets the power from below, power of manifestation, Shakti from below. And the sound at that center is yum. Yum, yum, yum. Enjoying that sound, that feeling, union, encounter. And now we will prepare ourselves to come back out of meditation. By slowly, slowly bringing your attention from the heart center, expanding it from the heart center, not leaving the heart center, just extending from your heart out to your hands, right hand, left hand, up to your head, down to your toes. And when you're ready, you can slightly move your fingers, move your head a bit from side to side. And when you're ready, you can bring your hands to cover your eyes, opening your eyes into your palm. Letting your eyes rest for a moment, and then when you're ready, you can open your eyes, keeping your gaze fixed on your palms as they float to your lap. And then waiting until you're ready to look around and reconnect with your surroundings. And once you're back, you have any comments, questions? Please just unmute yourself, say your name, and speak up. You're invited to do that. Encouraged to do that. Even how was that experience for you? What did you notice? What are you curious about? What shifted inside of you? What opened into your awareness? Any of that that you would like to share, other people will benefit from hearing.
This is David. One of the things I became aware of in the
battery 90%.
David?
One of the things I became aware of in the meditation is what I'm grateful for from last year, which are not the things I normally think of when I hear 2020. You know, I think of all the other stuff. Learned and grown from last year.
Mm.
Yeah, and I also I'm dealing with a mild amount of pain right now, and I wasn't sure if I would be able to get into a meditative state because of that, and I found it eased the pain, which is pretty cool.
Mm. Great. Yeah. Well, that's very interesting and sort of a tip for everyone that actually when we go into a meditative state, our discomforts in the world are diminished because we sort of disconnect from it and see that we're not in it, we're kind of observing it, and it's a serene and relieving kind of experience. That's great. Thank you, David. Georgia, do you want to say something?
No, I got called away there for a moment. So.
Oh, okay. Everyone's very quiet tonight.
This is Karen. Thank you, Swami Ravi. I had kind of a similar experience of a lot of gratitude for all the learning. So much happened in the last year, and I learned so much through in so many avenues: work, class, other classes, a lot of gratitude. This came online, so I get to be with everyone every week. But I was just really aware that right before we started tonight, I talked to a dear friend of mine who got COVID a couple weeks ago. And I thought she'd just had it for 5 days and got better. And I just found out that she's been really sick and in the hospital. And now she's on oxygen. And so I was noticing that before I talked to her, I was kind of feeling, I don't know, cocky might be the word, like, woohoo, it's been a year and I didn't get it and I'm all good. And I'm not getting the vaccine and blah, 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 blah. And I just noticed how much kind of fear was coming up in the meditation, remembering her. Like it felt like with a reality that some people actually are getting really, really sick. And it could be me. So that was like, it was all side by side. I don't know, it was quite uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's very understandable. And so we have to look at that and accept that people are going through their experiences, and that's part of her journey. That's part of her process. And that's not your journey, but that's her journey. And it doesn't mean that we have to be afraid. If that becomes my journey, then I step into it and embrace it and learn from it. I just was in a meeting today where a friend who I've known quite a while, was talking about having COVID twice in the last 6 months or so. And he was saying, and one of those times he was 10 days very sick. And his conclusion was that this had changed him totally. He said, I just don't feel like I'm the same person. And I feel like it's been such a benefit. And I'm so grateful for that experience. So each of us is different. It's the science is pretty clear that viruses are definitely something that offer the opportunity for shifts and changes and genomic updates. And we all go through that with differing levels of comfort. And how we use that information is a part of our own makeup and journey and our own destiny in life, what we're going to experience in this lifetime. But the enduring message that is still very valid is that the viruses are not something to fear. That viruses, we were just talking about this a while ago, that viruses are everywhere and they're flooding into us. We have 10 to the 10, that's a number this long, of viruses in our body at any given moment. And they're coming in when we inhale, they're coming in the water, they're coming in everywhere. And what is the purpose of those viruses? Well, there are packets of genetic information that we can use if we want to. But our bodies are our cells. This is the top priority of a cell. Is the one function metabolically that gets the most attention and has the most redundancies in terms of many different ways of doing this, is to figure out, is this genetic information useful? If the cell decides that it's not, it clips it into little pieces and it's discharged. If the cell decides, I think I need this, then it goes to another and another and another step to validate and verify that. And if all those things say, yes, we want this piece of genetic information, then the cell starts producing it, send out to other cells, send around, and to exhale